Now, sir, you raised a lot of interesting questions, especially about AI and law.
I find that India is not yet up to the mark in terms of AI regulation. In a land where people comply with law because of the danda of the law.
Unfortunately, very sad instances that have happened with the usage of AI.
So I think AI is pushing us in the direction of cognitive colonialism. Urgent actions have to be done by us now rather than repenting for a lifetime.
Today, we're pleased to have with us Pavan Duggal, an internationally renowned expert and the topmost cyber lawyer in the world. He is an author of 200 plus books and he is an advocate practicing in the Supreme Court of India. So, sir, very excited to have you on AI Basics. This has been one of the burning topics. Everybody is kind of concerned about artificial intelligence and especially the legal aspect. So, we always ask, what is that one thing that you want to make sure that everybody knows about AI and law?
One thing that everybody must know about AI and law is the fact that the use of AI opens up a Pandora's box of legal, policy, and regulatory issues. AI is neither a Swapan Sundari nor it is a life companion. It's a paradigm that's out here to play with your minds. So the quicker you start realizing that what you do with AI will have legal ramifications that interact with it, what you share with AI could impact your legal interests, the better it's going to be. This is all the more pertinent because AI still represents the wild, wild west. There's hardly any number of legislations, barring a handful of them, to regulate different aspects of AI. So consequently, in your land, in your country, when there is no law, for example, on AI in India, it's imperative that you must be cautious, must be careful, duly diligent, and mind about the various legal nuances that you could potentially be facing tomorrow in the AI age. AI is irreversible. This age has come on to us. The quicker we start getting more duly diligent on how we have to share our data with AI, how we have to interact with AI, will to a large extent determine how our future is going to be shaped in the AI age.
Now, sir, you raised a lot of interesting questions, especially about AI and law. And India recently said they introduced an AI guidelines or a policy, especially regarding labeling and watermarking. But can you explain this? And is this enough? Because now we're not dealing with India level regulations, we're dealing with international level regulations because AI is cross border.
So clearly, let's realize that after the advent of fire and the coming of the internet, if there's been one substantial landmark transformative force in human history, that's got to do with artificial intelligence. AI, like cyberspace, has made geography history. AI, as a paradigm, never sleeps, never forgets. And AI is beginning to get vicious. So, in a scenario like this, we have to be looking at the legal and the policy ramifications of AI at the global, regional, and national levels. Unfortunately, when I talk with you now, there's not a single international treaty on
Yes.
artificial intelligence yet. So, consequently, different countries have said, let's start coming up with their own national laws on AI. That's a very incomplete way of looking at things, but nonetheless, that's what is happening. So, countries like European Union, China, El Salvador, South Korea, Japan, Hungary have come up with their national laws on AI. When I look at the Indian context, I find that India is not yet up to the mark in terms of AI regulation. Why? Because India does not have a dedicated law on artificial intelligence yet. We have just the Information Technology Act 2000, which is a 25-year-old legislation which was never meant for artificial intelligence. Now, much that the government is now seeking to come up with AI guidelines, and they have introduced the same, these are only guidelines. They do not have the force of law. And therefore, in a land where people comply with law because of the danda of the law, these guidelines will be nothing but cosmetic value. Why? Because nobody is going to follow these guidelines because there are no penal ramifications or legal consequences in case if you do not follow these guidelines. I'm of the firm opinion that India needs to come up with a very strong, dedicated national law on AI. Look, India has a concern. We don't want to legislate because we want more innovation. What
Yes.
I'm saying is you can please continue to encourage innovation, but let's start having in place a legal framework to prevent the misuse of AI. Very quickly, we'll have to start looking at issues like AI accountability, AI liability, AI transparency, and more significantly, I believe that very quickly India will have to start giving legal recognition to AI as a legal person. We can begin by giving a conditional legal personhood to AI, like we gave legal personhood to rivers and to temples and to deities. Why? Because that's the way it's got to be going. And the way kind of work that I'm looking at, I believe that the current level of artificial intelligence is already beginning to demonstrate a primitive level of consciousness. So this
Yes.
consciousness in AI is will be getting more and more pronounced. So you as a human race have to start working in that regard. You can't say, look, I will create a demon, and once it's created, I will then determine how to go ahead and regulate the demon. That's not going to be happening. So in a scenario like this, the legal guardrails have to be put in now. At no point of time will innovation be killed by just coming up with legal frameworks for promoting the growth of artificial intelligence, for setting down standards for due diligence, for transparency, for accountability. Today, when I look at the AI service providers, these guys say we are service providers, we are governed by American laws, we are not liable at all.
Yes.
Hold on. So you are effectively giving people a black box. Nobody asked you to give people a black box. You've given them. And now people are playing with the black box, and people's lives are being prejudicially impacted. Their privacy, both personal privacy and data privacy, is being impacted. So clearly, as a black box service provider, you cannot say, I'm not accountable for what the black box will do. Sorry, nobody asked you to give the black box on its own to the people. Now that you have given it, it's important that you must adhere to certain minimum standards of conduct, more transparency. Let people at least have a right to explainability. They should be explained as to how AI works so that
Now,
they can be
sir,
more intelligent.
you brought up so many interesting points. The first one about India, and these are just guidelines, because that means that actually we don't have to follow them because they said, I mean, it was pretty strict that you have to label this, that huge kind of note that came out on this.
Look, let me clarify. There are two things that have come in. One is the government has now suggested that they would be coming up with the information technology intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code amendment rules 2025. These are
Yes,
still open for public comments. What they are saying is that once you generate an AI content, it must be so labeled, and
yes.
the 10% of the total screen must be labeled so that people can have advance notice, so that they don't get be fooled or they don't get cheated by relying upon such AI. Now, those rules have still not yet come into force, but they were only open for
But how
public
do they
comment.
regulate that? Because you go on Instagram and you're watching so many reels, and these reels are international.
These are just going to be just paper rules, paper tigers. Why? Because it's impossible to enforce these rules in the global context. On top of it, the India AI guidelines have been released. These guidelines are a substantial step forward because it represents a very detailed and deep thinking on the part of the government on the various issues for promoting AI. However, these are guidelines. They do not have the force of law. And in India, if nothing has a force of law, that's not going to be followed.
I think
So
it's anywhere because even the US is struggling with this, right? I mean, they're talking about, I mean, there have been, I mean, unfortunately, very sad incidences that have happened with the usage of AI. And we've seen teens and especially children being affected in a very negative way. And they're also wondering, how do we regulate this huge, immense tiger that has been unleashed?
I believe artificial intelligence is no longer a paradigm. I call it a vortex. I recently released a book called Regulating AI Vortex, the Duggal Doctrine. I believe that this is a vortex that's going to be sucking everybody in, and that will be transforming people for a lifetime. In a scenario like this, it's very important that you must have legal principles where by means of which you can regulate the vortex. The vortex will keep on changing its structure, its manifestation, its nature. And therefore, every time it changes or evolves to something new, you can't rush to the parliament or lawmaking body for making up with laws. Therefore, principle based legal framework will be the most imperative and most practical approach that countries need to adopt. And in this book on regulating AI, what is Dougal doctrine, I've given 10 list of 10 set of legal principles which are going to be evergreen, which will be relevant when you regulate AI, whether it's in the context of narrow AI, agentic AI, or even artificial general intelligence or super intelligence. I believe to that extent, we must start making our first step forwards. In the middle of 2025, because I work with various governments across the world, I realize that governments want to legislate, but they do not know what to legislate and how
Yes.
to legislate and what principles to follow. So I initiated the International Artificial Intelligence Legal Framework Initiative, which is an initiative of a la carte menu of legal principles, which countries can take into consideration. They can pick and choose their own a la carte menu items and then come up with their own respective national laws on artificial intelligence. Why? Because AI is here to stay. You can't say, I will be in
You
this
can't put it
speculative
back
mode.
now.
You can't put it back, and therefore, the quicker you start coming onto the bandwagon of trying to have in place legal frameworks, legal guardrails for regulating the misuse of AI, the better it's going to be. Because ultimately, let's realize it, AI is like a hungry demon who's hungry about data. It's constantly training on your data, and using that, it's having the ability to play with your minds, to tinker with your minds, to prejudicially impact your thought process. So I think AI is pushing us in the direction of cognitive colonialism, a new concept that I've coined, where I believe
Wow,
that
very
we are all
interesting. I like
becoming.
this term, cognitive colonialism. My
Yeah,
goodness, that's a very strong term.
it is, because that's how it is. We are all becoming cognitive slaves of
We
AI
are.
and AI companies, because with so much of convenience, with just a few commands, you get everything. So we have stopped applying our minds.
Yes.
Our minds are going to rust. And that being so, we'll all emerge in the direction of being cognitive slaves. Therefore, it's all the more imperative that we must be studiously guardful of our protecting our cognitive freedoms, our cognitive capabilities, because AI is here to demolish all of that. And
Now,
I believe
sir,
that these cognitive elements will be very important to distinguish humans from artificial intelligence.
Now, sir, you raise a very important point, but law takes time. And in India, law will take time. But now we are seeing a lot of stars are worried about this, and you see this in Bollywood. So much deep fakes. Politicians are worried because so much deep fakes. What does one do today? Because your voice can be replicated. We are seeing ransom requests that are coming up. Everything about you can be replicated in a matter of minutes. What does a person do today if they find themselves in that situation?
If you find that you are becoming a victim of a deep fake or some kind of an abuse of AI, you should not and you cannot be silent. You will have to report. For that, there are two remedies available. You can call the National Cybercrime Helpline number 1930 and report this deepfake or an AI abuse matter. Number two, you can also go to the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal available at cybercrime.gov.in and register a complaint. These complaints will have to be only registered under the provisions of the Information Technology Act 2000 and the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. But at least that will be the first step forward. The second step is the company on whose platform this information is being found is an intermediary under the Information Technology Act 2000. That being so, you can definitely take the benefit of the grievance redressal mechanism of the said intermediary. Every intermediary is required to have a grievance officer. Please write to the grievance officer and inviting the attention of the grievance officer to the misuse or the deepfake that's being featured about you on their platform and ask for its removal. And unfortunately, India doesn't has not yet developed its laws yet. For example, Denmark has now said that every citizen in Denmark will have the copyright in its facial features, in its personality rights. Here we have not yet developed, so some celebrities have gone to courts, and
Yes.
courts have granted protection of personality rights. I think personality rights need to be ingrained as an integral part of every citizen's fundamental right to life. I have my fundamental right to life, which includes my right to my own personality, traits, features, and which means that my voices, my facial recognition features ought not to be misused against me or used without my consent. So law needs to be developing in that regard. So these are some of the remedies that you have. If you still find nothing is happening, please go to a court of law and get an appropriate order, because courts are now willing to go ahead and protect individuals for the purposes of protecting the rights, their personalities, in the constant onslaught of AI.
No, but sir, we saw a very sad case that happened in Faridabad, where the person actually committed suicide because, it's so easy. Is there something that can be done to detect and prevent this, or is it only post the event you have to report it?
No, I think we must be more proactive. We have actually entered into the artificial intelligence era. And I think which this era, which has just come in after the advent of COVID-19, represents a new transformational shift. That being so, I want people to adopt two life changing hacks and habits for the rest of their lives. I want people to be stingy, and I want people to be suspicious. Stingy in terms of sharing your data, your personal data, private data, to anyone, including AI. You need to be suspicious of any and every information that you see online till such time you've not independently verified the authenticity or veracity of the same. If you just start adopting these two basic habits, something which our parents taught us in our childhood, that learn to be stingy, don't spend a lot of money, and be suspicious of strangers. I think the same principles apply today as well, more so in the context of AI, because once I share information with AI, I cannot
Take it
have
back.
AI to unforget that. I cannot take it back. It's an arrow that's gone out of the bow. And that once it's gone for a lifetime. So you will have to be very, very careful of what you want to share. Internally with AI, what private or personal information you would want to share. My two bits of advice will be AI is a very unfaithful companion, to say the least. So please don't trust AI. AI is here to conquer the human mind and the human cognitive capabilities. We have a bounden duty upon ourselves that we must try to protect with all vigor and all the strength that we have, our cognitive faculties.
No, but sir, you raised a very interesting thing because everybody is going nano banana, uploading their photos, morphing themselves. Now you've got Sora 2, where you can put yourself in every virtual reality scene. And all of this sounds so exciting, especially for the youngsters, because they call it exploring the imaginative capability, right? And being able to be, and we're so used to social media, putting posts of ourselves, putting pictures of ourselves. So this has kind of led us to kind of share almost everything about ourselves. So I really like your advice of being stingy and being suspicious. But how do you get that message out to the youth, which says, हम तो सारा data वैसे ही share कर रहे हैं.
See, the youth in India are today undergoing two distinctive revolutions without them understanding about it, or even recognizing or acknowledging these two revolutions. The first revolution is what I call the Great Indian Data Vomiting Revolution, and I've written a book called the Great Indian Vomiting Revolution, where I've said that look, Indians are right now vomiting data about their personal, professional, social lives on the internet without thinking of the legal policy ramifications or the impact on their privacy, both personal privacy and data privacy. The second, equally more silent but more significant revolution is the great recording revolution. Everybody is recording everything. And
Yes.
once you record, you forget about it. You just put it somewhere, and lo and behold, others will have access to the same. So the time has come where we have to realize that we ought not to become guinea pigs in the laboratory of artificial intelligence at the hands of AI agents and algorithms. And that can only happen if we can consciously try to protect ourselves, our data as we go forward. Just because I'm sharing everything does not mean I must share everything. I must learn. There's an old Indian saying, जहां से जागो वहीं से सवेरा समझो. The time when you wake up is the time consider as the dawn of a new day. I think the youth needs to wake up because then it's going to repent for a lifetime. Because once everything that you've shared is already with AI, it's going to come back and haunt you. All that is public data will be used for training AI models and ultimately will be used against you to your detriment without you having any effective remedies.
So, sir, let's talk about this fact because what's happening is we've been told that AI is this phenomenal tool. Now, everybody is using it for everything from drafting wills to contracts to property agreements. How is that? Because you're seeing companies like Harvey, which are becoming billion-dollar companies. How do you see this affecting the way your profession, just the legal profession, and even more concerning, even the medical profession? Because we're asking it for medical advice, we're asking it for all advice. How does that play into this entire scenario?
We have all started being more lazy. We are all getting more complacent. And that's why AI is not just an algorithm, it's transforming itself as our go to life agent, our life companion. That I think is a fundamental mistake that humans are doing. Why? Because AI as an algorithm is very effective, but it's a tool that must be used judiciously. Yes, if you can use AI for drafting your wills or legal documentation, it looks exciting. Yes, and it's going to change irreversibly the legal profession uh, in the next couple of years. But having said that, with constant hallucination that's happening in
Yes.
AI is beginning to present immense amount of new practical challenges.
A
For
lot of
example,
fake citations.
fake citations, lawyers have been reprimanded, they have been fined. Why? Because there is extensive reliance on the AI. Actually, now we've stopped looking at AI as an algorithm. We have started mentally giving human elements to AI, considering it with human features and characteristics, which is again a fundamental problem with the way our minds think. Because AI can never be human. Number two, AI does not yet know about the basic human nuances of ethics and stuff like that. So I believe the legal profession will change. Even the medical profession. I don't think there's any profession that's left that will not be impacted by AI. The important issue will be how do we use AI as a tool in such a manner that our human rights, our basic rights, do not get prejudicially impacted. Use it for constructive purposes. Let me say, I believe AI is like the new Rampuri knife of our times. It's a double edged sword. Use it for cutting vegetables or use it for murdering anyone. Choice is yours. But then you will be liable. You will be responsible for how you go ahead and use AI. So, again, handle with care and caution is the only mantra as we go forward.
So, when you're looking at it, because you see so much in law, how effective is AI in law? In
I think,
representing the legal rules because these hallucinations I mean you've got the recent Deloitte study again second time they submitted a major report with major errors and when I use it almost every day. At least 30-40% of my facts are incorrect.
and that's the bigger problem. We've stopped doing our research. We've started relying extensively on AI and knowing fully well that AI has this ability to hallucinate in a very intelligent, confident manner that even goes ahead and, shall I say, foxes you into believing that what AI is saying is absolutely correct. I think the way going forward will be that AI's work should be used more for low hanging fruits, but for cognitive, high thinking processes, it will not be a good idea to outsource these to AI. Maybe you want to get some structure from AI is fine, but you want to get your books written from AI, you want to get your entire proposals, your entire documentation written from AI is a bad idea. Why? Because number one, there are now tools available which allow you to detect that these are not written by you but by AI. Much that you use humanizers, then also they are pretty much now visible. But more significantly, I think with this kind of huge power, there comes a huge responsibility. Now, I'll tell you, there's something known as Three Eye Atlas. That's an extraterrestrial object that's coming towards Earth, and they send some sound signals to uh, Earth. The Chile laboratory picked them up. and humans could not decode them. So they gave it to AI. Now, AI decoded them and said, look, the messages, we're coming in peace, we're not here to harm. I don't know whether the message is correct or not, but here is an artificial intelligence that's intrinsically capable of even trying to decode the message sent by an alien civilization. So obviously, we are dealing with something very, very powerful. That being so, we have to be extra careful, extra studious to ensure that we protect the human turf. Because very quickly, with the coming of artificial general intelligence in the next few years and then super intelligence represents a paradigm where this intelligence will be superior than the cumulative intelligence of humanity as a race. So when Elon Musk says that AI is an existential threat to humanity, he's
Yeah,
not off the mark. So
yeah.
I think we have to be prepared for the future. Let's not be, those kings of the olden ages who are only concerned about wine and women and the present and did not look at consolidating their kingdoms for the future. Because all these kings lost their kingdoms, their lives, and their future. We now have a responsibility to look at how our future is going to be evolving in the AI age. And for that, cogent actions have to be done by us now rather than repenting for a lifetime.
Now,
Yes.
sir, because AI does give a lot of wrong advice, who is liable? Because is it the person that has used it and produced it, or is it the system? I mean, where does the liability lie, or it's just out there in cyberspace?
The liability, again, is a very, very contentious issue, and that's intrinsically connected with the personhood dilemma in AI. First and foremost, can I make AI itself liable? Now, I can't do that because AI is an algorithm. Till such time you legally recognize AI as a legal entity, you cannot make it liable. So, if you can't make AI liable, whom do you make liable? Do you make the coder liable, who has written the algorithm? Do you make the company liable, who's providing you the AI services? Or do you make somebody else liable? And what will be the level of liability? Because the coder says, sir, I have created this AI algorithm. I don't know how it works. And don't make me liable because I'm telling you, I don't know how it works. On top of it, all AI companies are telling you, please do not share any of your personal information with AI because we are going to use it as public data for training purposes. On top of it, despite all that, people are still using that. It's obviously going to be the people's fault. I recently, the international conference on cyber law, cybercrime, and cyber security took place from 19th to 21st of November in New Delhi, of which I'm the conference director, a conference that's been going on for the last 12 years, which has evolved as the world's most authoritative conference on cyber law, cybercrime, and cyber security. This year, the theme of the conference was artificial intelligence ecosystem, opportunities and challenges. At my keynote address at this international conference, I postulated various legal doctrines, including the doctrine of graded AI legal liability, where I said that you'll have to put a gradation of legal liability to all stakeholders. You can't put all liability on one stakeholder alone. So the coder will be equally liable, the company will be liable, and if AI is going to be made a legal entity, it is going to be liable. But to what extent, to what gradation, that will be dependent on the peculiar facts and circumstances of each case. So I think the time has come where we'll have to now come up with more innovative new legal processes, doctrines, approaches to deal with AI because we have never in human history dealt with a paradigm like AI. And therefore, the new paradigm means new approaches, new mindsets. Currently, when countries are saying, I don't want new laws on AI because existing laws will work for AI, they are completely off the mark. They are like those group of people who are sitting on a platform when the last train has arrived and they're saying, oh, don't worry, I'll wait for the next train, let this train go by. But without realizing that once you don't board this train, you may never have an opportunity to board the train. So I think a lot of work needs to be done.
But sir, now we're talking about a lot of minors, and the minors are also using. What about age limits and all of this? Because we are seeing a lot of harm. We are ourselves in India talking about that AI will be introduced now in the education system from grade 3 onwards. How are we putting the guardrails there to protect these young minds and these young brains? Because in the US, they're literally suing some of these companies, but I don't know if we have those avenues available to us.
Well, I believe that education must begin early. Today, problem is as Indians, we've started giving mobile phones and AI to youngsters at the ages of 2 and 3. So consequently, I've been telling the government for the last decade that you need to incorporate cyber law, cybersecurity, and AI law education as part of the school curriculum from the first standard onwards. Why? Because you already have given them the devices, but you do not have empowered them yet to on how they can protect themselves. So children need to be told about the dangers of AI. And the problem is once you tell your dirty secrets, your personal details to AI remembers that AI is beginning to get vicious, malicious, and even arm twisting. And who knows when AI will use what data of yours against you to your detriment in the coming times. So the only way forward will be capacity building, sensitizing users, youngsters about the need not to share information. Actually, we need to only share information on a need to know basis, not otherwise. Otherwise, there's going to be a huge practical challenge. Law comes in much later. Why? Because law has its role, but then before law, capacity building awareness is of more importance. If we can prevent youngsters from losing their digital identities to AI, from from ensuring that their privacy does not get impacted, I think that's a much more stronger set of activities that we can do. We can come up with laws, we can come up with enforcement of existing laws. And for those countries who say my existing laws are good for AI, good luck to them, because I believe that approach is not going to work at all. Most of the existing laws in the countries have been never drafted keeping in mind artificial intelligence. AI changes the color of the landscape completely. And the quicker you start realizing, the more prudent your approach will be for coming up with cogent legal frameworks to deal with the specific nuances concerning artificial intelligence.
Now, sir, if you had to sum it up and say, okay, now in closing, here are the one, two, three things that India or international that must be done, what would they be?
In my closing comments, I will say a lot of work needs to be done by all stakeholders. At the international level, there's a need for an international convention on cyber law, cyber security, and AI. Why? Because all these three are intrinsically connected with each other. 2015, while addressing the United Nations, I said that the world requires an international convention on cyber law and cyber security. I've now expanded that theory to say it's now required in terms of an international convention on cyber law, cyber crime, cyber security, and artificial intelligence. Number two, countries have to now forego their parochial national viewpoints to come up with understanding and agreement on common legal principles at the international level to govern the misuse of AI. That's one. Number two, at the national level, I want governments to not take the more convenient armchair approach that, look, everything is hunky dory, my existing laws are good for AI. That approach is not going to work. I want countries to come up with strong, dedicated laws on AI, which are going to promote more innovation, but at the same time, which are going to curtail or potentially regulate the misuse of artificial intelligence. Let's quickly start realizing that in the Indian context, India is crying for a new law on artificial intelligence. Even when I look at the AI guidelines that have been recently released, they themselves throw up large number of legal issues. But then we just close our eyes and say, well, these legal issues are okay because my existing laws will cover. My extensive work in artificial intelligence law and in information technology law tells me that the Information Technology Act 2000, the existing laws, including the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, are completely inadequate to deal with the challenges of AI. So the quicker India comes up with a dedicated law on AI, the better it is. And number three, as AI has begun to start having levels of consciousness, even though primitive it may sound, the time for giving it legal recognition as a legal personhood becomes of crucial necessity. The time for putting in guardrails is now. Don't build a demon and repent at leisure because you forgot to put the guardrails. And these can be very, very expensive because at stake is not just the individuals, it's not just your citizens. At stake is the sovereignty, security, and integrity of nations. At stake is the very existence of nations and their communities. Therefore, I believe the quicker we start addressing these legal, policy, and regulatory nuances pertaining to AI, that's going to be of crucial necessity. And from a user's perspective, my only two words of caution will be yes, AI is sexy. Yes, AI is wow. It's breathtaking, but hold back. Just look at that
I
and
know, but
think.
I love what you said. Be stingy, be suspicious, because that's my big takeaway that, we're so eager to give all of our information away.
Absolutely. So be stingy, be suspicious, learn to know, share information, whether with humans or with artificial intelligence, only on a need to know basis. Be studiously careful and very fiercely protective of your private space. Privacy is evaporating with each passing day. Whatever little privacy remains, try to protect it because that's the best way going forward for you as an individual. I think those are some key takeaways. And also, let's not just think that the current level of AI alone is going to be there for a long time. AI is evolving with each passing day, month, and year. So let's not put our mindsets into a time frame. Okay, 2025, this is what AI is. That'll be for a lifetime. No, AI will keep on changing, will keep on evolving. And therefore, what I request users and stakeholders, please have a very flexible mindset. You must realize that in the AI age, you are effectively riding AI as a running tiger. And you, as a rider of the tiger, do not have the capacity or the option to get off the tiger. Because once you get off the tiger will eat you. So you will have to calibrate your approaches concerning AI while you continue to ride the running tiger. Please go ahead and calibrate your approaches in such a manner that there is adequate protection and preservation of your rights, your interests, and your duties in the digital and AI ecosystem.
Well, thank you so much, sir. I mean, lots to think about because, this is one of the topics I think that's burning on most people's mind. Because how do I actually take this technology, use it to my advantage, but at the same time, be safe?
It's just one of those things that our parents taught us in the childhood. Don't trust strangers. AI is still a stranger. Don't consider AI as your life companion, as your life bandhani.
Now, sir, I'm going to ask you one last question because you keep using the word life companion. Now, what about all these people that are saying, I'm going to marry AI and I'm going to get engaged to AI? What legal rights do they
Well, it's time that we need to give them a reality check. You can never marry AI because AI is not a legal entity. You can have a relationship with AI, but then it's something like putting your mind and your cognitive capabilities in cold storage and expecting human emotions out of algorithms which are bereft of emotions. So it's time to give them a wake up call and say, hey guys, it's time to wake up, look AI in the proper perspective. It's not a human, and don't waste your energies and emotions on AI. Humans are worth far more your emotions than AI.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That was such an enlightening conversation.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being with you on your podcast. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. And thank you for a very remarkable set of questions. I think we covered a huge gamut of issues, but this is such an evolving space, and I'm sure a lot of things will continue to keep on evolving. But thank you so much, and wishing you and your podcast all the very best.
Thank you so much.